Hey guys, blessing and peace on you. So sorry that I'm having to do this through a video on my phone. It looks like it's a little bit, hang on a second, let me do this. Still a little, yeah, that's a little bit better. Anyway, guys, welcome to Uganda, East Africa, specifically Fort Portal, but more specifically than that, Kanjojo. If you want to know what the town of Kanjojo looks like, it looks like this. That is Leanna's school. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I love you guys. I'm sorry. Listen, we're trying really hard to get our Wi-Fi going here and to get it sustainable for me to be able to join you. But just in case, I'm sending you this video and I want you guys to know I love you. So share the stories, do the thing, tell the people, because God Almighty is moving here in Uganda, East Africa, and every single one of you guys are a great big part of it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Oh, we miss you, Pastor Troy. We are so bummed that he is not here with us. He actually was supposed to be joining us from Africa Live, but they've had like crazy storms roll in to the area that they're in, and they're literally up on a hill. You saw in that picture that was from their house. They're up on a hill, and so when it storms, it really storms. So we are holding down the fort here today. I am Shay Wilbur, the media director here at Open Door Church and all things Troy Brewer Ministries, and we are so excited about today's show. It's going to be awesome. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to this crazy bunch. We have a lot of fun, and what we do, all of the different ministries within this house, we do ministry so we can rescue kids all over the world, whether it's from starvation, from human trafficking, from abandonment. We do that all over the world. And today we're going to be focusing on some of our most memorable rescue stories. We're going to share some stories right out of Africa from this week that Pastor Troy has shared with us. We're hoping to get that in person, virtually from him, but we have our ways to tell you those stories and to share those stories. So we're just going to be chatting about all the incredible, crazy, super miraculous things God has done in and through this ministry we are so excited to be a part of. So welcome wherever you're joining us. I see people on Rumble. I see people on Facebook, on YouTube, on where else are we? Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. ODX.
X.
Oh, and on X. I mean, we're all over the place. So thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. And with that, let me welcome the crew before I get off and running, because I'm super excited to talk about everything today. Ben Brewer, how are you?
I do swear, Lord.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm really excited. I was like, Ben, you have to join us today because there's no story like a Ben story.
Yeah, so unique.
We need Ben's stories today, and we're excited to have you. Who's joining us? Have you seen?
Well, I've seen people from all over the beautiful planet Earth, like Liski from South Africa. We have Belinda from Big Time Glen Rose, Texas. We have Pablo from Argentina. We have Tracy from Kansas. Rick from Hillsborough. Priscilla says she finally made it to live. Welcome to the party.
Hello.
Glad you made it. We have Iron Rose is in here today. We have Debbie Smith, and we have Aaron Ash.
Wow, I love seeing the people on Rumble. That's a new thing for us, a new platform. So it's exciting to be also seeing all the people. Oh, Pastor Troy's on his phone in Uganda. Hi, Pastor Troy. I feel like I just geeked out like a little kid. But we weren't sure he was going to be able to join us. So he is here in spirit. He can tell us if we get anything wrong as we're telling these stories today. But wow, that's cool that Pastor Troy is on there. What platform was that on that he said that? Did you say?
Facebook.
Facebook. All right. So if you're on Facebook watching, Pastor Troy might just be chatting there with you. So he is here. Papa Troy in Uganda, staying up late for us, right? Because I think it's a little bit later there.
It is currently 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Okay, not too late yet. He can stay up a little bit longer. Rebecca, welcome.
Hi, how are y'all?
We're good. How are you?
I'm excited. Honestly, I think today's going to be one of my favorite ones. So I'm very, very excited to hear all the stories from Ben and our guests today. And just what you said, this is what we do and why we do church.
Yeah.
To rescue and to honestly, just hearing all the stories and the new ones that you have lined for today, I'm just in awe of what God is doing. And I can't imagine how Pastor Troy and Leanna are feeling right now in Africa. So wherever you're at, wherever you're watching from, Rumble, Twitter, not Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And when you comment and you share, this is how you could join us in the fight. This is how you could join TBM, Spark Worldwide, Open Door Church, all the ministries, and we could join together forces to be able to save, rescue, and make rescuers. So get ready, because there's some stories that those children are now rescuers. So I'm so excited.
It's
And might get a
really
little bit
cool.
emotional, but this is why we have church. Because
Yeah.
we get to be the hands and feet of Jesus.
It's so cool. And if you're new to joining us, you're going to see a ticker throughout the entire show. Sometimes you'll see a phone number pop up there like you do right now, 877-413-0888. That's a 24-hour prayer line. You can also call that number to get involved in our ministry and donate. You can also go to the website. You can go to troybrewer.com to get involved and join the fight and help us rescue more kids. And we also want to encourage you, if you're not watching on ODX, maybe you're like, what is ODX? That is our online video platform. So it's incredible. And what's really, really cool about it is not only is there so much content from services, conferences, interviews, all of our past Pulse episodes, and so much more, Pastor Troy's appearances. We've got so much content on there, but when you join ODX as a partner, that money goes towards helping kids. So just kind of think of it as it's a small amount monthly that you're paying to help rescue kids. And hey, you get access to all this incredible content. So if you're unfamiliar with that, check out odx.tv. We would love to have you as a part of that family. Let me welcome our fourth guest for today. I'm really, really excited. I almost said third. I'm like, no, fourth guest. Pastor Daryl is in the house, and we could not have this episode today without him.
Well,
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. You have been around the world with the ministry. You've been a part of it. So your sister is Pastor Leanna.
Yes.
So you've been a part of this since it's been going on.
Yes.
And I know you have so many stories.
I do. Where do you want to start?
Okay, so I'm trying to think where we should start. I want to start first, I think, with an update just from what we've seen from Pastor Troy, and I'm sure you have met some of the people that we've talked about. So I'd love to know your input on that, and Ben, especially with you. Before we get into your stories, let's talk about Pastor Troy has literally, as we've been sitting here, texting us pictures of some of the updates. And, we promise we're going to be updating you guys on some of our rescue stories today. So let's start off with George, because George is a really special, that's the little boy, right?
Which
Did I
one?
get his name?
There's a
The one
dog.
that Barrett's visited.
yes.
Okay. I was like, that is the right name, right?
Brother George.
Okay,
Yes,
so that is Barrett in the sweatshirt. That's Ben's son, Barrett. And that is George right in between them with Pastor Troy. Ben, why don't you set up the story of George? Because I love this, and I love how Barrett, your son, who's 12 years old,
Yes, ma'am.
how he has connected. And, again, it's all about raising up the next generation of rescuers. And I just love how this is all kind of unfolded. So give us the George story.
This is actually a really fun story. So, by the way, Pastor Chance is actually watching from Uganda now, and he's one of the ones we'll be talking about here in just a second.
Oh, cool.
So we went to Pastor Chance is it Lightfoot or just okay. And we went to Pastor Chance's church, and he actually has a school there, and he has a really cool little school there.
Wow.
And he has a really nice church building we help him build. If you don't know the story of Pastor Chance, the man's a rock star, and it's a long story, but to get to the short version of it, he went and sought God in his church building, begging him for somebody to come help. And there was no floors, the roof was falling in, it was rough, it was in rough shape. Well, my parents somehow just decided to stop there. They felt God say, hey, stop here and go feed these kids.
Seems like
And
that's
they
what
found-
happens a lot with Pastor Troy in Africa. God's just like, stop here. And you're
Very
and
common.
Pastor Leanna. And
Very
they just
common.
stop and go.
And so they stopped and they met Pastor Chance, and basically the rest is history. We've helped him out a lot, and he has grown. He's got his own school going. He's got an amazing little church going on right now. He's a rock star.
So the school that George attends, is that at the church?
That was the school that he
Okay.
attended. So that's where we actually met. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. And this is actually the first time I ever took Barrett to Uganda, which was a fun trip. It was a lot, but it was good.
Were you there, Pastor Darrell?
I was there.
His first trip with Barrett?
Yeah.
What did Barrett think?
Yeah.
His first, because so how old was Barrett?
I think he was 10.
10 years old, going to Africa.
Yep.
And what was that like, just traveling to Africa? What was his response like to being in Africa as a 10-year-old kid? This is, okay, wow, I'm seeing everything my family
Dude,
has been
that
doing.
brother is a world traveler. He did great. When I say it was an interesting trip, it's just emotionally as a dad watching him go and do
Yeah.
that. It
Wow.
was crazy.
Yeah.
He did really, really well the entire time. I mean, he's already gone to Mexico with us. He's gone all over U.S. with us. So he's used to traveling. He's not used to traveling that far, and that's a long
It's
trip.
a long flight.
It's 16 hours from here to Qatar,
Doha? Oh, okay.
at Doha. And then from Doha to Uganda is another 6 hours, right?
Yep.
So it's a
that's
22-hour
There's nothing
flight.
better than when your kids get to go with you.
Exactly.
You know, obviously you've been going as a kid too, and your parents bringing you. to Mexico and to Uganda and the Amazon and India. Ben's been to India. We've been to India several times together when he was even a kid. But when you get to bring your son, there's nothing, nothing more special
No, it's
than
amazing.
that. And then, of course, to watch Ben, or watch Barrett, like he said, find this boy in the sea of all these other kids.
Yeah.
And it was there, and that his heart was so broken. Barrett was like looking at his papa, which of course was Troy. It is like, we have to do something. We have to do something. And of course now there's a great story because we're doing something about it. But he literally is the one that rescued him.
Yep.
He's the one because there was a lot going on. There's just so many other things, but that's who he pinpointed. And now that kid is so blessed and brought into another school, which is where Ben was going. So the school that Pastor Chance was taking care of wasn't a blind school or anything like that. So we just relocated him to another school. But
for context, we walked into the school and George was actually in the first grade, if I'm not mistaken. He's in first grade or kindergarten.
Right.
But as an 11-year-old. And it's because he's blind, so he can't learn the way everybody else learns. He obviously has to learn Braille and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, Barrett saw that and like started just crying. He's like, why is he such a big kid in such a little class? We have to help him. And so he ran to my dad and he ran to me. He's like, Dad, we've got to do something. And so so we obviously did. We found a school for the blind and for the disabled, and we actually got him there. And so what Barrett does now to support George is he actually sells eggs every Sunday. And so when you buy eggs at the Spark store, that's actually Barrett, and that's how he supports George every month.
Yeah. And again, this is a 13-year-old kid, 12-year-old kid. And so now he was so moved from this trip, from his previous trip, that he came back and is now selling eggs in church on Sunday to send the money to George. So do you know when, can you put that picture up again with George? I just love seeing the picture of them as we're talking about this. But can you, do you know, have you gotten to talk to Barrett as far as what did he do did George know he was coming just now, coming to see him again? What
He
was
had
that like?
heard that he was in town, but he didn't know he was coming to see him.
Okay.
So he was super excited when they got to see each other.
Man, that is awesome. And actually, I think Pastor Troy sent a video to our stage 3 people. So if you're on ODX as stage 3, you've probably seen this or you're about to see this. But I think Pastor Troy said to George something along the lines of do you know who I am? And he said, yes, I do. You came to me like Jesus. I'm like, I can't even say it. I'm crying. I'm like, oh my goodness. So anyway, it's so cool that this is all come about because the Lord put it on Barrett's heart, and now Barrett's able to go and visit and see how well George is doing and the smile on his face. And man, that's just one of so many stories. And I know Pastor Troy and Leanna talk about Uganda as being their happy place, and you can see why when there's just so many stories. Our baby's home there has almost 90 babies in it. 90, which is
there's some chunky babies.
I know.
I love their baby.
I think I might get kicked out if I were to go. My cute aggression.
What is she doing with the baby?
She needs to calm down. I don't know what I would do. I would be in heaven too.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, even just seeing the video that they sent us of the view from the house on the hilltop was just so beautiful. It just looks like, I mean, look at this. It looks like the presence of God,
It is heaven.
over this land. And I think to the left is the school.
Correct.
Yep.
So they can really see this whole village. Now, is that the road over there that leads
Yeah,
up?
that's the main highway.
That's so beautiful. When you think of Africa, I don't think of this. I think of desert. I do. I've never been there.
No,
But when you see on TV, you think of
Egypt,
desert,
yeah.
elephants in the fields, and it's barren.
there's no desert in Uganda. So.
Man,
No, there's
it's
not.
beautiful.
But Africa is made up of 56 different countries, and
It's
so
massive.
there definitely is the
Yeah.
Sahara Desert and everything. But
Yeah.
Uganda is considered the breadbasket of Africa. And so everything is so lush. They can grow anything there.
You would
But
not
It's
believe
hard
this.
to tell looking at that picture, but that's 5,000 feet in the mountains right there.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Yes, and that's very steep. They're like another 1,000 feet.
Wow.
So the house is probably 6,000 feet
Yep.
where they're
No
at, but you're looking
way.
down into the valley. Again, it's kind of one-dimensional there, but
That's so
that's already
cool.
That looks honestly like a
5,000,
portrait.
So
I
You
know.
would not believe our plantations we have over there.
Wow.
I know.
They're
I heard that
unbelievable.
you guys, avocados are better than Mexico's.
yeah.
I know,
Really?
They
Yeah.
are.
That's
It's
what I
hard
heard.
to make it better
They're
than
like the size of
Mexico,
a
but it is.
football.
Avocados
Yeah.
are? Oh my gosh.
I wanna
that's
go for
amazing.
And they're wonderful.
Wow. That is so cool.
My
saw
mother has also brought Mexican food to Africa. So
Has she?
we have tortillas over there.
That's amazing.
To make it
Well, no, in one of
yes.
the videos, they were Pastor Troy was actually eating, and I think again this was for our stage 3 ODX family. So if you're part of our stage 3 family, you're getting great content from Pastor Troy. in Africa. But he was eating a
Sophia?
sopia, right? And I think and it had like ground beef in it. And apparently Pastor Leanna
Oh, no,
told
that's
them.
samosa. Or not
Oh,
samosa.
yeah.
Empanada.
It's basically like an
Like an
empanada.
empanada,
That's
but
what I
yeah,
think.
we're
It's like an
putting pineapple
empanada.
and things like that.
Yeah,
in
but
it.
so she told them, hey, you got to put like pineapple and apples and cinnamon in this. And they're like, you're crazy. This is meat.
Yeah.
You're supposed to put meat in it. And then they tried it and they're like, oh. So she's actually shifting the culinary
She
world.
is.
Oh my
She
God.
is.
in
There's
Uganda.
legitimate Mexican restaurants popping up.
That's funny.
All over
That
Kampala.
is the mark of Pastor Leanna. If you know Pastor Leanna,
She loves
her Mexican food and she knows good Mexican food.
Yep.
That's
She does.
amazing. I
She
love
started
that.
calling herself an Afro-Mex.
Oh
That's
my God.
hilarious. Is that a thing? That's amazing.
But what's funny is the Mexican restaurant in Kampala is actually like one of his shirts say I'm an Afro-Mex because he's actually a true African, but he went to Mexico
That's
to learn
amazing.
the culinary food there and,
then
came back. Yeah.
Wow.
That is amazing.
Okay.
Wow. Well, another story, we talk about it's so cool that, you guys have been doing this for 30 years now, over 30 years. And I say you guys because I'm like new to the team. I feel like I'm riding your coattails at this point because I haven't even been here a year, and it's so cool to be a part of this ministry. But now you're at the point where it's like kids that you rescued are now rescuing other kids.
Yep.
They're now going on to have these incredible life testimonies. And Pastor Troy shared one, and I mean, it's so incredible, this story of a little girl that they helped and what she turned out to be, who she turned out to be. So we're going to take just a couple minutes and watch this video. We were going to have Pastor Troy tell us in real time live, but since he's like experiencing some kind of crazy storm, we have it on video. I want you guys to hear this story from Pastor Troy, and then we'll come back and talk about it. So take a look at this.
I'll tell you this. There's a little girl that we saw when she was just a little bitty thing, and her mom was super poor and needed a lot of help. Super great mama. Her name is Hadija, and she was Islamic girl that had an encounter with King Jesus. She became a Christian. She kept her Islamic name Hadija, and she's still a friend of mine to this day. She's I don't know, probably 10 years younger than me or something. Anyway, she had this beautiful little girl. Well, man, we supported this little girl. We helped her. She and her mama even came to the United States and came and stayed in our house. It's like 20 years ago. And again, we supported them, paid for their trip, and then supported her on an ongoing way because they were very vulnerable. And it was just a struggling single Ugandan mama with a beautiful little girl. And we supported them. So they came out and spent 2 Christmases with us in a row years and years ago. All right, fast forward about, I'd say about 10 years ago. I was coming back from Israel, maybe 8 years ago, something like that, 7 or 8 years ago. I was coming back from Israel, stopped in London, and I preached at a couple of churches. I did a leadership thing for a church, and I met with all of their leaders. And people are asking me questions, hey, Pastor Troy, we know that you rescue kids, and what's that like? And what's the experience of the kids that you actually rescue and you support? And then, to my surprise, the most beautiful girl in the room stands up and she goes, I know what it's like because I was one of his kids. And she said, hello, Papa Troy. And it was Bridget. And I was like, what? And she starts telling, I didn't know who it was. And she starts telling everybody, I was one of his supported kids. He paid for this, he paid for that. He took care of my mom, he did this and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there wondering, who is this girl? And I start bawling, she starts bawling. Well, let me tell you who it was. It was the reigning Miss Uganda. And no joke. And this little girl literally grew up to become Miss Uganda. Well, I say all that to tell you this. And she gives this huge testimony of how we've helped her and how we've loved her and how we've blessed her and through the years. And she's a big champion of our ministry that you and I are a great big part of. And I was in Kampala yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and I'm sitting on the back porch of this hotel where we're at, and this beautiful, beautiful 34-year-old Ugandan girl comes up to me and she said, hey, Papa Troy, I found you. And it was Bridget. Yeah, the former Miss Uganda. She's a nurse. She's also works in psychology. She works with special needs kids. She's a rescuer. And I want to tell you, it was astounding. We spent the day together and it was beautiful. I'll tell you more about her story later, but I want you to know that these kids that we're rescuing, when they're little, they grow up to be amazing rescuers themselves. And as a matter of fact, me and Leanna are trying to find a way to hire her. We just need to hire this girl, and she needs to work on our teams, and she needs to go and work with all of our special needs kids in all of our homes all over the place. And so, yeah, it's a really big deal.
Wow, so cool. A little baby that they rescued. Her mom was super vulnerable because not only do we rescue children and people who are victims of trafficking, but vulnerable children. We try to prevent this from even happening to them. We try to prevent kids from being trafficked, from women from selling their children into this. And so her example, her story was an example of that. And then she went on to be Miss Uganda.
Wow.
That's crazy. And she's so
Look at
beautiful.
her.
I mean, like seriously, so stunning. And it's so cool to see how her life has been a testimony of God's goodness, of his salvation, and that we could play a part in this. Man, I'm like, yes, hire her. Get her over here. We need to film with her. We need to film her.
Yeah.
I want her on camera telling that story. That is incredible. And she's just one of the many. And you just never know. It just goes to show you, you never know the calling that is on these lives that we're changing. Like, you know, it's been over 11,000 kids that have been rescued over the past 30 years and well over 11,000 through this ministry. And if you're new, that's a big number and it's legit. Like that is the volume that we do here. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. And man, that's just one story of many. So it's just really cool. I love that she tracked Pastor Troy and Leanna down too. And she's like, I need to see you. And has consistently done that. And it's so cool. That must have been so cool for them to be there in the moment. And then she comes up and, I found you.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Does that happen a lot when you guys are overseas?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, it really does.
Honestly.
I guarantee you, when they come home, he's going to have a bunch of those from this trip right here.
Yeah.
I promise you. They may not all be on the pulse, but you'll hear about them. He'll
Yeah.
be telling you these stories. And you can imagine, so 30 years of this, the legacies that are there. I mean, we're talking Africa right now. I get that. But India, it's the same thing when we're there. There's so
Yeah.
many adults. There's so
Shravani
many.
is one of the stories, yeah.
The same way. I mean, a lot of them, the Shravani and people like that we've always been in contact with, but a lot of other ones that we knew or we know of, but there's no way to keep track. And so
There's
there
so
will be
many.
plenty of them. We'll come to them and say, hey, I was one of the kids that lived in that home. And again, at 30 years, so a lot of them are, pushing 30 now. So there will be a lot of stories.
That's what's so cool about this ministry. This is the first time that I've actually been a part of the ministry, like a ministry that does it. I've been a part of many churches and faith-based organizations that partner with like Feed the Children or what all those other organizations. And you always wonder, like you just do, like, does this kid that I'm helping really, like, is this really the picture that you get with a name? Is that really the kid? Or like, does this really, who are these kids that I'm helping actually? So it's just cool to be a part of a ministry where like, it's kind of like, there's so many, we can't even count all of the lives that are being changed. And when you go on these trips, when you go to Africa, when you go to Belize, we have a team going to Belize in a couple weeks.
Right.
You get to see the lives changed and it's just constant stories of God's goodness.
Never gets old. But
Yeah.
you're right. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Amen.
And it's all about relationships. It's all about
Yeah.
relationships that Troy and Leanna established in the beginning, about being relational before functional, as Pastor Troy
Yeah.
always says.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, and so we're reaping that now.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Imagine if like we're learning this, I mean, in mid-30s, and we could teach that to our children, not just, hey, it's just church and this is what we do Wednesdays and Sundays. No, you have to be relational too,
Yeah.
to be able to communicate and be in communication with others. But you guys are doing that in Africa.
That's so
Imagine what
cool.
we could do here also, but
Yeah.
teach your children, and then they could do that and be relational and spread it all over the world. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So just hearing him say that is just like a little girl, the little light bulb turned on. Oh, I know how to tie my shoe today. But it's about being relational
But
before
even
functional.
you, Rebecca, I mean, you since you were a little girl, and when you came here and you were a part of this tribe,
Yeah.
now you're much more than part of the tribe. I mean, you're head of it. I mean, you're but so many things. And so to see you all grown up and your story, I don't necessarily think we rescued you, but I know Pastor Troy and Leanna certainly took you under their wing and
Yeah.
made you.
We were talking about
when
that
he
today.
always says that about you. He says, she's one of my daughters, and he means it,
Yeah.
he means it. And here you are doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, I do
So-
believe that Pastor Troy, he does that everywhere. Like when we came on, not on board just to help, he literally took us. We could have left and gone with our, with the Spanish culture and be comfortable, but he literally is like, no, y'all stay here, join us. And he has. I mean, that's what he does.
Yep.
He takes you under his wing, and he is a father. He's a
what
great
I
father.
think, another thing I think is really cool is like Pastor Troy and Leanna. I mean, Pastor Troy is very both your whole family, Ben. They're very vocal about like, hey, this is not an organization that was started by a family that had oil money, that had all this funding, that was like, oh, we just got millions and millions of dollars. We don't know what to do with it. No, this was started, like this was on their heart to do when they had nothing, when they had pennies. I mean, Pastor Troy has talked about them mortgaging their house 7 times to rescue kids. I've heard stories from your childhood when you guys had nothing and you were still sowing, he was still giving, he was still rescuing. And it's truly the heart. And I think sometimes when people watch from afar, it's like, oh, I can't, I don't have $1,000 a month to help raise a kid or rescue a kid, but you have something that you can give. You have someone that you can help. There is someone that you can sow into in any way that you are able to. Like if you want to, that opportunity is there. So I just think it's a cool reminder to be like, hey, you don't have to be a big bad ministry in order to be able to do this and rescue.
Yep.
Was that like, do you have memories of like when you were younger? I'm curious, like helping others and being like, we don't even have anything and we're giving, we're helping others.
I have memories of helping others, obviously, but I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, because I guess when you're little, you don't really
No,
realize.
yeah.
Like, I mean, we grew up with not a lot, and we were like in a lower income area in Philly where I grew up. But I never knew that. Like, I didn't realize. Like, I just knew that I would like have to go to Payless when other people would get to go to the actual get the name brand Nikes, and I would get the Payless.
I was
version.
such a hillbilly. It never occurred to me.
Yeah, you're like, no.
I didn't like wearing shoes anyway, so I was like, "Psh, I don't need shoes. We're good.
It occurred to me, being their uncle and everything and watching to see what they were sacrificing and what they were doing and sacrificing their parents. And so it definitely occurred to me, and I used to think, I appreciate what Troy and Leanna were doing, but watching Rayma and Ben and Megan and Luke and what they were going through but Leanna and Troy still persevering and doing what they needed to do. And I'm glad he looks at it that way. Leanna and I basically grew up in an orphanage ourselves.
Wow.
With all the foster kids and adopted kids. And frankly, I hated it. I
Did
hated
you?
it. Yes. And so I think that's probably one reason when I was looking at them and watching my, my nephews and nieces growing up and just thinking this is, that must be really tough for any PK kids, understanding that now. It's the irony that, God has me in orphanages and doing things like that. And because I love it and I respect what I went through, but I didn't like sharing my parents all the time and everything else. And so couldn't dream this is what I was going to do. So it took me a long time to get over it.
Wow.
So I was kind of just, living through you, or at least, but I never heard him say that. I'm glad he said that he really didn't see it that way. And, and I'm grateful that was the case. And of course they turned out great, and look at them. They're all, they've, they got a great legacy.
That was a good.
No, I mean, we had so much going on back then. Like it never occurred to me. I mean,
That's awesome.
looking back, I should have probably seen the signs.
You're like, what were the signs?
I mean, well, no, I'll tell you one of the signs I think was hilarious still to this day. At our very first church building, we rented it out, and across the way from us, there was a whole bunch of goats, and they would constantly get out and ram everybody's cars and jump on their cars. And
Goats?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
Like
God.
big old mean billy goats.
On Sunday morning, so church service, you'd come out, there'd be boats or goats on your car, everything else.
Wait, where
Africa?
in Texas was this?
In Joshua.
In Joshua.
in Joshua.
Oh, my
Oh, yeah.
goodness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we called it the Alamo Church because it had a kind of an old Alamo,
Yeah, looking back,
Front of
things
it.
like that should have
Like,
keyed me
Been
in.
like, this
but
is really
I was like,
normal.
oh no, this is normal. This is okay.
But honestly, Troy and Leanna always included them. I think that was the big deal. I'm not saying my parents didn't, but we were just living life together with all these children coming through. But when they went on missions, when they went to Mexico, when they went to the dumps, they always brought them and they showed them. They showed them how to do this. They didn't leave them behind you know, majority of the time. Sometimes they had to go to school and stuff like that, but overall, they were always included. They were always a part of it. So I think that was a big part, the legacy that they were showing them. So you definitely can do these trips and do these things, but bringing your kids and not sacrificing your kids at the altar of ministry,
Yes,
you
that's
know,
important.
which is a huge thing that a lot of ministers do. Troy and Leanna definitely didn't do that.
Yeah.
Their kids still came first before they helped other people. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you.
No, and then when he'd go, so my dad used to get super radical and go spend 30 days in the wilderness, essentially, and go just fast. I mean, I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah.
But he would take us out to like the Big Bend National Park, and we'd camp out for like a full month. It was awesome.
That's so cool.
Oh, yeah, it was a great time.
That's amazing.
In theory, I say that you could not pay me to camp in a
well,
tent
again,
for a month.
I
don't
was a
think
child.
In theory, that's really cool. I love that for
I
you.
was a child. And
I like thinking.
yeah. I have like a
That's-
ton of
that's cool,
funny
though.
stories of like my
That's
dad
a
being
quality
attacked by
time with your dad.
raccoons, Luke being chased by javelinas.
What?
Wow.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, we had a great time out there.
That's a great time to be
Interesting.
chased by rabbit animals.
Oh, no, I wasn't me, it was Luke. So it was fine.
That's cool though. And then you have like all these stories, and just now like how Barrett is going to have all these
right.
these stories, and
That's
he's
right.
able to see faith in action, which is so cool. Right before we started, I don't think I had time to send it to Taylor yet. Pastor Troy sent me a video of Barrett actually praying for George, and I started crying. So maybe it's better that we don't show it, because it was just so touching to now see Barrett praying for George in Africa. It's just so sweet. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope that like my kids as they grow have that heart for ministry and see that and understand the importance of, and just like understand like the reality of the world. And we're privileged. Like if you have a house if you have a roof over your head, you're privileged. Like if you have food on the table, you are rich. You're richer than most of the world. And so it's like having that perspective at such a young age is so valuable. And it just changes probably how you look at everything.
Oh yeah.
Did you realize that like as you were growing up that you saw things differently than other kids?
Well, we could talk about that behind the veil.
Oh, that's true.
Behind the veil.
We could. Should we go behind? Should we go behind the veil? I was thinking maybe staying in front of the
Oh, it
veil
doesn't
since
matter
we're
to me.
talking about rescue.
I just don't
Yeah.
want to stuff here.
Oh, okay.
If I need a
No, I feel like today, because we're like sharing all these really cool rescue stories and stuff like that, I kind of want people to
know.
have a feel for the ministry. Like if you're watching, and this is your first time, or maybe you're joining us on Rumble and you don't know what Behind the Veil is, that is us going exclusively to our paid platform, odx.tv. And so typically on the Pulse, that's what we do. Around 30 minutes in, we go behind the veil. And if you're watching on ODX, then you get access to that exclusive content. But today, again, I want to like let everyone in on like
That's how
the
me.
cool stuff. And I want them all to hear this, whatever you're about to say.
He's laughing.
As Daryl will tell you, I have a unique lens when it comes to life, and I
Yeah.
find things funny that most people don't. Because I've been through a lot.
Yeah.
And there, one or two things. Kind of like Allstate. I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've learned to find joy in the chaos
Yeah.
and in the
Yeah, you do.
confrontation. And so it took me a little while to get to that point, but I knew pretty early on I have a different lens from everybody else.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we went to India. Me and my dad went to India for the first time when I was 16. We got kidnapped. We had all sorts of craziness happen.
Well, you
like-
almost got literally sacrificed in
yeah,
India.
yeah.
Like
that
human
happened.
sacrifice. Ben was
So-
almost a human sacrifice in India,
Yeah. it
which
was-
that's a whole other story.
Yeah. Then I
that's
ate
a-
monkey, went to coma for 3 days, 107-degree fever, 108 you die. You know, it's no big deal.
Oh my.
Typical day in
goodness.
paradise. But
And
no.
that was in India.
Yeah. That was all the same trip.
Oh my,
goodness.
gosh.
But no, it's because of unique things like that. And honestly, because of the stewardship my parents brought and how they taught me how to search for God in these things, I knew from a young age I had a different view
Yeah.
on things, a different way of life.
Uh-huh.
Because like I'd come back home and be like, tell my friends, like, dude, I ate a monkey. And they're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, why wouldn't you at least try it once? They're like, why would you even think to
would
try
you
it?
try a monkey?
Because it's awesome.
Yeah.
Who else has done it?
No one.
So I have a ton of like
Yeah.
one-ups for every time somebody's like, oh, I did this. I'm
You're like,
but I
well.
did this. And so I learned how to do that at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I've been traveling so much at a young age. I've been experiencing so many different
Yeah.
cultures and so many different religions and so many different people. Like, I've known since I was little. Like,
Yeah.
I ain't
Yeah,
normal.
wow.
It's okay. I mean,
None of us are here.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly.
Pastor Daryl, I'm curious. What are some? I know you've been on so many of these trips. The amount of phones or the amount of photos and videos in your phone is probably insane from all of your trips. So I'm curious, like, what are some of the stories that stick out in your mind from your trips?
There's so many stories. I mean, I know you're going to ask me that, but I was telling somebody, I think yesterday, I was just talking to the media team when we had lunch and talking about a time that we were in India. Actually, JC, which is his brother-in-law, was with me. And then I brought an architect. It was right after a tsunami that came through and just destroyed pretty much the town, and we needed to rebuild the orphanage, and everything was closed, and it was just really sad. And I told some of our partners, I said, hey, let's do something fun with the kids. There was 192 kids living in this orphanage that was 5 stories high, and I was staying in the orphanage with them, and he's like, well, he said, like what? And I said, let's take them to the zoo. And he's like, well, the zoo is closed. He said, it's closed because everything's been destroyed. The animals have all escaped, and they're everywhere. And I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty scary, and I just left it at that. And the next day I come downstairs and all 192 kids are standing at the bottom of the stairs waiting for me to get up and go with them. And I just thought school was out or something. And
Yeah, you're like, what's going on?
To see us. And I asked my friend, what's going on? And he says, you said you wanted to go to the zoo. And I was like, I panicked for a second because I thought, what does it cost to take 192 kids to the zoo?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how much cash I had, but then I was like, and I thought like 12. I said, some of the kids do the zoo.
You're like, I know 192 of the kids.
Yeah, he looked at me and he's like, well, it's okay. It's okay. He says, because he could tell I was a little panicked. I said, no, let's do this. And so we had a couple of small buses and we put all the kids in there. And in India, it's not about seats. It's how many windows and things you have. So these kids could, it was like an hour away. So they're hanging out the windows and, meaning you can just shove all these kids in these 2 buses, these short buses. And so we take them there. We show up at the zoo. It got all of our 192 kids that are there. And it's the first day the zoo's open. The city had just opened them. I just opened it just kind of as a morale for and still a lot of the cages were just destroyed. Animals still running around.
Oh my God.
They were literally
That is
trying to catch them.
crazy.
And it was an incredible time. And taking those kids and getting to spend the day with the 192 kids. Took them all to lunch after that, or bottom lunch. Then I took them to the beach after that.
That's
and
cool.
they're on the Indian Ocean, but none of these kids have even been to the ocean.
Wow.
And so just watching them just kind of chase the waves and have a good time. And that was one of my fun stories.
That is so
and I was like, who
cool.
gets to do that?
Yeah.
And I still have the newspaper article because the news was there because it was the opening day. They didn't know we were going to be there.
my
But there's a picture with JC and myself, which I wish I had it right now, but had it with us walking through the zoo with these kids. And of course, everything, we did have to avoid a bunch of animals and a lot of other issues. And
And like uncaged animals, right? Is that like,
Uncaged.
hey,
And a lot
by the
of
way, we can't find the tiger. Watch out. Like,
they had that was funny too. The tiger, they had a nice Bengal tiger on there was just a chain link fence, just one little chain link
chain
between
link
them,
fence?
and that's all there was, and a man with a stick. And I asked the man,
that is not.
yeah, and I asked him, I
That's
said,
India, man.
how do you keep them from sticking their hands in there? And he's like, why would they do that? I'm like, good questions.
Well, because they're 5. And my son for sure would be like,
Yeah.
like,
Oh my goodness.
and
That was a fun story. Obviously, I have
that's
lots of
cool.
rescue stories and a lot of other things. But
Yeah.
you said, what sticks out? That would be
So
one.
what
of them.
about little Sonia? I know you've talked about
So
Sonia.
Sonia
before.
would be a rescue. So
Yeah.
Sonia, which we have the picture of, that was I think the last time we were there in
Little girl.
Africa, and I was visiting one of our schools,
Oh,
and
look at
I
her.
asked Pastor
Cute.
David. I asked him. I said, I want to stop by one of the houses, just one of the mud huts,
Yeah.
because I wanted to show some of our partners that were with us, some of our financial partners, because I wanted them to see where everybody lived. houses that are just made of mud and so we randomly show up at Sonia's house, and that she's in one of our school uniforms, so I knew she was one of our schoolgirls. But I'm showing off the house, and I'm showing our friends that, I said, this house of mud, and I'm telling them, I said, do you know why this is made of mud? And they're like, no, I don't know. They thought it was a trick question. I'm like, because the mud is free, because that's all they have. So they got to pack that mud on every time. So I was making a point of why we need to build more houses.
Yeah.
And then Sonia happens to be standing over there, and somebody tells me, says, hey, her arm is broken. And you can see it's very crooked.
yeah.
And so
That one,
says
the
her
arm
arm
that's-
is broken.
that's
Yeah.
on the
And
right
I'm like, wow. And I had just recently had shoulder surgery, and I know what that pain was.
Yeah.
And so I just stopped what I was doing. I said, let's take her to the hospital, like now. And I couldn't figure out why she wasn't in a lot of pain. And somebody tells me it had been about 5 months before that her arm was broken.
Can you imagine
And
a
I
little
know.
kid having a broken arm for that long? Just
All night long, crying, and a mom that can do nothing about it, and just imagining not aspirin, nothing. You just deal with it until it just, grows like that. So then I instantly get George, our George, there to go ahead and get her to the hospital as quickly as possible. And it's like, we'll take care of it, we'll pay for it. And while I was standing there, God tells me we're going to build her a house. So we get her sent to the hospital, and then we tell the mom we're going to build her a house. And which is what we do with Pastor David. But Pastor David first has to get the backstory, make sure she owns the property, everything else. Come to find out, when Pastor David's talking to her, she is like, no, my husband owns the property, but he comes home every night drunk with somebody else and beats us, and no doubt broke her arm and did these other things. So he's like, she's like, yes, you could build us a house, but can you please build us a house far from here where you can't find us? So we essentially rescued her.
Had to rescue her.
And built her that. And Pastor Troy talked about this story last year too. We also built a store that's part of that house. So our mom's in business, has all of that.
I didn't
we
realize
filled it
that
all
was
up.
hers, because I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
We sent her to the hospital, to what we call an American hospital. And that's her going through the surgery. She had to spend a week there. So we had, first-class surgeon from either the EU or the States. I don't remember where it was from, that did the surgery, and there she is. And today she's doing wonderful. But that's a classic example of a rescue, rescuing her and her mom.
Just one story.
Yeah.
Man, that is really cool. What about the other woman that I think she had to have surgery, and it was like something that here would not have been a serious situation, health situation.
Sure.
But in Africa, it was something that could have easily killed her.
Right. So this is a very classic weekly example. It's the reason I did that. We got a call with our friend here. You can see her neck on the left there, swollen. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't eat. And so she was very close to, she needed $2,000 surgery, or she was going to die, period.
Yeah,
there was no options,
$2,000,
there's no free medicine or anything like that. And so you can see on the right that she got her surgery, but we get this on a weekly basis.
Wow.
Our partners calling us and saying, hey, can we have this? Can you guys take care of this? And Leanna is always, through Spark. Yes. So that's that's just a normal day in the life of Spark and ODC and TBN.
Yeah. That's what I think people don't realize. It's not like a lot of ministries, they do like missions trips, and then you get all these stories on when they go on the mission trips of, oh, we did this, we did that. We literally every week are doing stuff. Every week she's getting text messages. I mean, it was like a couple months ago. It was like from Ukraine. They needed something in Ukraine. Or if it's, hey, we need $2,000 for the surgery. Or, hey, we've got these 2 little girls that we're trying to rescue. Be praying because we hopefully can, bring them into one of our homes. It's every single week. This isn't like highlights of the year where every once in a while we do like a big mission thing. This is all the time. This is every week. And now we have over 50 safe homes all over the world. That are literally 24/7 safe homes.
Right.
And we not only rescue kids, but we raise them. And that's a big part of Pastor Leanna's like shepherding heart, the she shepherd, as she calls it. That's a big part of her heart. And like actually seeing this through to fruition so that we can have Miss Uganda come back and be like, hey, I was a rescue. I was one of your kids. I know there's a girl who works as like an executive at Nike who was like pulled out of the Amazon. And it's like, those are the stories. I'm like, man, it's just really cool to be able to hear those kinds of testimonies. It's so cool.
We also have doctors.
Yes.
One of them,
Teachers,
surgeons.
Yeah.
surgeons, and
Didn't one of them just become a heart doctor, or was it a brain doctor?
I think it was a heart doctor
Yeah.
where somebody's working. It's hard to keep track.
Honestly, there's so many-
It's probably both. It's probably a heart doctor and a brain doctor.
Honestly, I mean, we have literal lawyers, we have doctors, we have everything you can imagine, mechanics, farmers. I mean, you name it, we have it.
Ben, has there ever been a time, I'm curious, and then I'm curious for you as well, Pastor Darrell, where you've been like maybe scared when you're on one of these trips, or I don't know, frightened by either the circumstances that were around you, or maybe like I think about the story when you were a kid and the machine guns, and your mom is like, no, my kids aren't getting out of the car. Was that you or was that Luke?
That was all 3 of us.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, literally, like they
Chihuahua.
were driving through, was it Mexico? Somewhere in Mexico, and men with machine guns threatened, like with the machine gun pointed at
It
their
was
heads.
when we were in Chihuahua, going to wherever the
Krill.
Krill, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
For the kids to get
We had
out.
Renee with us.
Were you scared in that moment? Did you know
I
what
was
was going
asleep.
on?
I didn't know what was going on.
That would be me. I would literally be the one sleeping in the
I
back.
was sleeping so good.
But your mom did they ask Pastor Leanne, or they told her, they didn't ask her, but with the machine gun held up, they told her to get out of the car with her kids, right?
Yeah.
And she said no.
Yeah.
She literally looked at them and said, no, I'm not getting.
Listen, everybody thinks that Pastor Troy is like this hardcore guy. No, he has nothing on my mom.
Yeah.
My mom is like a mafia
There's no
boss.
fear in those
No.
in those circumstances.
She's a rock star, man. She doesn't put up with nobody's stuff.
I know.
She's like, no, God's gonna protect me, and you're gonna get over it.
Yeah.
Like that's all there is to it.
But saying that to someone with a machine gun
Oh yeah, dude, she has
is
no fear.
wild.
I kind
She has
of
no fear. She's a rock star. But I mean, yeah, there's been a few sketchy situations of like, I don't know about this one.
Yeah. I don't know, but this could be the one.
Yeah.
This could be the one.
Yeah.
It
No, I
makes
mean,
me not want to do this again or something.
I have this running joke of I am the walking embodiment of Murphy's Law. I'm not sure if you know what Murphy's Law is.
Yeah.
What can go wrong will go wrong.
go
And
wrong.
Daryl here can attest to that. I have been in every single, we call them the ugly room, but interrogation room at every airport in
Wow.
every country I've been in.
Really?
because they
Every
stop
single
you,
one.
right?
Oh yeah, every time. Every single time.
But he just looks like it with that beard, you know.
Yeah,
he looks
I
like
guess.
somebody you want to make sure.
You
But no,
look
I mean,
intimidating.
yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like I've been in some unique situations. I'm like, okay, this might be it.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But no, of course I'm scared.
In those moments, are you just like going with the flow, like how your personality is? Because that is your personality. Be like, okay, well, we'll see how this turns out. Or are you actually like nervous in those?
I've learned not to freak out because it doesn't help
Yeah, that's true.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so go with the flow all the time, is because we've traveled and
You've
done so
learned.
many crazy things. Just like at this point, whatever's going to get us has got to be radical.
Mm-hmm.
So like the small stuff, like getting shot at, stuff like that, that's not radical enough
Getting
to.
shot at is not the small stuff.
I don't know. That's the small stuff.
That is the big stuff.
That's crazy. What about you, Pastor Daryl? Have you ever been like nervous or afraid in those moments?
Nervous, but never afraid.
Yeah.
Never afraid. We have nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
You know, when we go there, I always tell people when they come on a trip, when we go somewhere, they need to be afraid of us. We need not to be afraid of them.
Wow.
You know, God's sending us. And I literally tell people, you know, I'm traveling with my big brother Gabriel, my big brother Michael, you know, and we don't need it. There's nothing
Yeah.
to fear. You know, I literally take to heart when the Bible says 365 times, have no fear.
Yeah.
And so I don't. Now, the very beginning, my first time, well over 20 years ago, surrendering and deciding to go on my first trip and go into the Amazon, I was scared out of my mind. But that's not a factor anymore. You know, and I'm not just saying that to me
Yeah.
because there's nothing for us to fear. We have everything to gain, nothing to lose, and God sends us. There's been 2 times that I know of that I thought I'm dead in 30 seconds.
Really?
And of course, it didn't happen.
Well, yeah.
But it wasn't fearful at that point.
What happened in those moments?
Well, the one time was I was with Gina Zagara. We were in India, and you can't apostolize, you can't preach, you can't do. And anyway, but he decided we were under a tree. The rest of the team were still back at the children's home, and
Okay.
Ben was there with his dad preaching or whatever. But Gene wanted to go under a tree and do a little revival. And so we're standing there, just him and I. And actually, he's standing, I'm just sitting, and we're real close to the road. And I figured at any point we're going to get drug off, and we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that's
Wow.
whatever's going to happen. And I remember we're there, and this guy comes up and says, "Pastor, this man has 7 demons." And I videoed the whole thing. I mean, it was perfect. I mean, I just was almost in their face, and I got a great video of this. And Pastor Gene just looks and he speaks to each of the 7 demons. And he just very quietly, very nicely cast out all these demons. And it's just absolutely beautiful the way he did it. No yelling, no anything else. And then right after that, this pastor grabs somebody else, does the same thing. And then
you're having deliverance.
it was awesome. And then we left there. We went up to the pastor's house and had some tea and some cookies. And anyway, and I was really shocked that we didn't get drug off in a lot of trouble, you know, for being so blatant in what we were doing. Well, we left there. And then he brings us to another little building. It had a couple hundred people in it. It wasn't much bigger than the studio, it felt like. So we go in, and there's a little platform about 1 foot tall. Pastor Gene steps up there. I'm in the very, very back, just kind of scratched up against the wall, and there's shutters. And all of a sudden, there's a ton of noise outside. All of a sudden, and these shutters are going a little crazy. And I look outside behind me, and there's a tornado. So, I mean, there's just roofing going, and there's 55-gallon drums.
Like
Everybody's
in the
squeezing to get in and just screaming. And I'm thinking, okay, I mean, this is the devil not very happy. Gene just looks like he doesn't see anything that's going on, and there's total pandemonium, people trying to get in there. I figured this building is coming straight down. It's going to crush us. And if it doesn't, they're going to blame us, and it's going to be, you know, a real issue. But I just remember just standing there being like, here we go. And 6 people died behind us. And electrocuted right behind me. And then they kind of whisked us out of there. And Pastor Gene still had no clue. Even afterwards, he's like, I had no But
did that
but
happen?
I did. I was just standing there like, here we go. There's nowhere to go. Here,
Yeah.
if I'm
You're
going to
like
die, I
helpless
want to
in that
die on the
moment.
mission field.
Yeah.
As the Cowboys would say, I want to die with my boots on. I don't want to be collecting seashells in Florida or something.
Yeah.
So I thought that would happen, and then the other one was just another story in Nepal, but we don't have to get into that one. So
That one's funny.
but it was just a piece. I'm telling you, it felt really good.
Yeah,
just to
God
know
gives you
that,
that
hey,
supernatural peace.
here it is. But it wasn't my time. But
What's funny to me is a lot of these people are like, well, why didn't you videotape this? Why didn't you videotape that? Like, when you're in moments like that, you're not thinking about, I need to show the world this. I'm about to die. No.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see that. I mean, I'm sure you do, but nobody's going to see that.
Yeah. I'm curious if anyone who's watching has, if any of you have questions for Pastor Daryl or Ben or myself or Rebecca, but I mean, we haven't traveled quite as much as they have, so we don't have quite the roster of stories and rescue stories. But yeah, if you guys have a question, wherever you're watching from, put like question mark, and then ask your question, and that way we can get it answered. Rebecca, did you have anything?
No, I was just hearing Pastor Daryl, and then I know we've been in ministry, but hearing everything over, like just, it's not repetitive, but it just hits you like you're hearing it for the first time. And I'm just reminded of the Bible and Jesus, everything he did was caring for the poor. He always helped the 5,000, the Good Samaritan. Jesus did that here on earth. So if he was able to do that, why can we? He said that we would do what? Greater things. And John 14 says, I tell you, whoever believes. So if you believe in him, that you in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. So I'm just encouraged, and those that are watching, I want to encourage you today that as you're hearing these testimonies, as you're hearing not just stories, because we're not just saying, it's not just stories, but these are testimonies of what we do and why we do. Jesus did it, and he commands us, if you believe in him, that you would do greater things. So I'm just encouraged to even go on more mission trips as you're saying that. Maybe ODC might not be too happy, but I'm encouraged greatly. He said that we would do greater things. Pastor Troy and Pastor Leanne have a yes. You have a yes. Pastor Deborah has a yes. Ben has a yes. And Barrett, like, if you have a yes in your spirit and you believe, he did say we would do greater things. And why not step out of your comfort zone? Why not help the poor? Why not help your neighbor? Why not help your community? Why not step out and do what God called us to do? I mean, he said it. And I know that if you believe, and I believe, then we will do greater things. I just want to encourage you to join ODX, join Spark Worldwide, join TBM, and we could help save more kids. We could help make more rescues. And you could do that by, if you feel like mailing or sending a check, you go to P.O. Box 3775, Burleson, Texas, 76097. You can call us 24/7. 877-413-0888, or you can just give on odx.tv and click give. I don't know. I just feel very encouraged. I just felt
good.
that, I mean, he did it. So,
Yeah.
and we're doing it, and we could encourage others. It's not scary.
it's not scary.
It's not. He did it.
It's not scary.
And
Yeah, that's
so,
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
fine.
with Ben and Pastor Daryl, I feel great. And Jesus. That's
Yeah.
what-
Yeah.
And Pastor
Everything's
Troy.
fine.
Pastor Ryan Warren wanted to know, Pastor, what are some of the prayers that we can be praying for our missions partners around
Amen.
the world? Like, how can we be partnering with them if we're not able to be physically there or financially?
Wow.
I think it's a great question. I think the obvious, just like we'd be praying for, for people here that are, pastors here even, but people that are just, they have it a lot harder than we do, as you were even saying. We don't have to worry about our meals and things like that. So their faith card has to have a lot more on it. They have a lot more challenges. A lot of them, a lot of them are maybe, foreign missions. They may have family in the States and things like that. So what they sacrifice. So, praying for their relationships too with each other, and praying for just for courage. And we can just go on and on. So it's everything you would imagine if you put yourself in their shoes of what they have to go through, just being separated from family, or just, or even if they are, indigenous, but the governments that they have, they're coming up against them, and, the persecution. I think that's a great question, but very wide open too.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Is there another one? Yeah.
Yeah. It's Lisa Payne. Is there a single thing that happened on a mission trip that you can say changed your life immediately?
That's a good one.
I think absolutely. The first mission trip I went on, just going, just saying yes.
He got left in the Amazon jungle by himself.
You got left by yourself?
On his very first mission trip.
No,
I've been waiting
why
to bring
are you
this up
laughing?
because it's hilarious.
No
How did you get
way.
left?
What happened?
So the one that he's referring to, so
Yeah, how'd
that
you
was my
get
first trip.
He's literally waiting for this
I mean, that was the first time surrendering and deciding to go to the Amazon, to even go on a trip. And so even that, Escobar had just been killed and taken out. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know, I'd never even had a passport. So, I mean, it's a big story.
Yeah.
So just to surrender and say, yes, I would go, I knew there was a 50-50 chance I was never coming back.
Oh my
I made
goodness,
peace. My
that's
children were,
goodness.
my youngest was 2, and then I had a 3-year-old, and I had a 8-year-old. And
Did your
even-
wife go with you on that?
No, nobody went. No one. And,
Oh my
but you know, it took
goodness.
me like 6 months to say yes to do that. So that was the hardest thing. Obviously I did come back, and as Ben said, you know, I spent 4 days in the jungle without any food and water, which was my 40 days, you know, and God revealed everything to me. I'm sitting here today because of what happened and what he spoke to me in those 4 days
Wow.
of being lost in the jungle. But I'm a guy, so I don't really, you know, say we're lost, but I was, you know, very deep in the jungles of Brazil. And so, yes, that was scary. So when you talk about scary, but just to say yes was scary.
Yeah.
Just to show up, to end up in the jungle, which is not where I planned on being. But that whole story, which again, it's a great testimony, and it's a big reason why I'm sitting here today.
Wow. That is
We have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So someone asked, what is the most amount of ice cream you have bought at one time? Apparently you testified or you gave a story yesterday.
Do you not know
Or
about
media-
him being the ice cream man?
No.
I don't know
Let
about
Ben tell
that.
the story. Let Ben tell.
Tell me. And what's your
You're-
favorite flavor?
Oh, chocolate, my
Chocolate,
favorite.
yeah.
Chocolate. Make it easy.
That's my favorite.
So what is the story?
So everywhere we go in the world, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter if it's the middle of the jungle.
True.
Daryl has this
You'll
really
find it.
weird anointing where ice cream will just show up.
no, it will not.
It
It's
does
like a
not matter
supernatural drop
where-
of ice cream.
We were in the Amazon jungle on the Amazon River one time, and a boat drove up with ice cream on it, selling ice cream.
What?
We've been in Africa in the middle of the jungle, and an ice cream
Selling
man
ice
came on a
cream.
bike.
Oh my God.
Like, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. But he is the true ice cream man.
That is so funny. You're the real life ice cream man.
I am. Well, I love ice cream, so I
Yeah.
love sharing it. So if I see it,
That's,
you know, it's happening.
that's so
But
sweet.
it is funny. I mean, could be worse things to be called, but even in,
Yeah.
I was in Belize recently, and there's a school, a couple of schools, but one particular, I always show up and I run up to the dairy. It's about 20 minutes away. So by the time I get it there, I got to come in on 2 wheels and get it out, just interrupt school, everything else, and bring them ice cream. And all these kids know me as the ice cream man. They probably couldn't tell you my name if they, you know, if you gave them $100. But that's very common. And like you said, in the jungle, or I mean, even in Africa too, there'll be guys that have like 5-gallon Gatorade things that you'll see on the sideline of a football game, and they have just like frozen ice cream inside of it. And I'll pay for the whole thing, and so everybody in the village
Yeah.
can get a scoop
Oh,
and
that's
things
so
like that.
cool.
So it's just fun.
That's cool. Well, I think, you know, everyone has their own specific anointing. God's gifted everyone with different little things like that can just kind of be like your stamp, you know?
Because God's good, you know.
That's
Mission
fun.
trips aren't hard. We do have a lot of fun, and we're
Yeah.
blessed. Again, and we're protected. You know, I always love it when somebody even told me yesterday, you know what? It's fine because if you go, God says He'll protect you, is what
Yeah.
He says. And I'm always like, that's really funny. Tell John the Baptist that.
Yeah. I know.
That's exactly right.
But I
Yeah.
said that's not a guarantee, you know. But that's not why you go. But
No,
you know,
you-
when you're
yeah.
done, you're done. And so
Wow.
Yeah. When your time's
What a
up.
better way to be done though.
Yeah, totally.
Doing what God called you to do.
Wow. Well, it's been so cool to hear some of these stories. What were we going to say, Ben?
We have one last question
Okay.
before we wrap up. Kelly Garcia says, how many facilities do we have around the world, and how many kids are we currently being sheltered and cared for?
you can answer that.
I know we have over 4,000 in our care right now.
Yeah.
I cannot remember how many facilities we have though.
I think it might be 52.
It's
I know it's
53.
over 50.
Yeah,
I'm the boots on the ground, you know.
Yeah, you're the one that- yeah.
I'm there doing it. You guys are keeping numbers, and
Yeah.
you know.
I know it's 50 something.
Yeah,
I don't
it
know
is.
what
It's
is.
in the
Hard to-
50s, and it's over 4,000 kids that we have currently in our care around the globe right now. And again, those are lives that are forever changed. Like some are in India, some are in Africa, some are in the Amazon, in Colombia, in Mexico. on the border, Brazil. I mean, we
Belize,
have
Peru.
like I'm still is it
Nicaragua.
Cambodia? Don't we have something? In
Yeah,
Cambodia?
we have a rescue place
Like,
in Cambodia. I'll personally be in South Korea in 2 weeks.
Wow.
It's
So,
crazy.
that's kind of a first thing too, but God's going to do huge things. We're just moving so fast.
That is
It's kind
true.
of hard to, keep up with everything, but it's all in a yes.
Yeah.
Pastor Troy and Leanna always say it's just a yes. But if your answer is always yes, then
Yeah.
there you go.
We have a yes in our spirit for sure. And we are learning from our pastors who are putting that in action from you, Pastor Dale, from you, Ben.
And they're there.
Bishop.
Bishop Ben?
It's cool. I mean, I think you can't be a part of this ministry without that yes in your spirit in some form, because that's what really keeps us all going and motivated to keep it up and to keep, like, for me, it's like to keep sharing these stories. It's my job. I see it as my job to communicate these stories with people so people want to join, be a part, sow into this ministry so that we can rescue more kids. I mean, Pastor Troy says it all the time. The only reason we have 4,000 and not 40,000 in our care is just because we need the finances. So the more finances that come in, the more kids we can rescue. And I love it because, this is not one of those ministries that's just like money hungry about the flash and we're all driving fancy cars and all this, that you see around this kind of celebrity pastor mentality that's like overtaken our world. That is not the vibe here. I can assure you, pretty much everyone has a pickup truck. I haven't checked on the pickup truck thing yet, but, and that's including Pastor Troy. He's not pulling up in a Ferrari. Like, he says himself, man, like, I hate money and everything wrapped up in it, but I have to have it to rescue kids. And that is the only reason we even talk about it, is because we have to rescue kids. And he's the one getting the phone calls. You're the one getting the phone calls. Pastor Leanna, each week, hey, can we, we have a 12-year-old, can we bring her in? How do you say no in that moment? And every time we say yes to rescue a kid, that's $1,200 a month that we're agreeing to help raise this child. And I mean, that's like an average. So sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but that's a lot that we're signing up for, and we're trusting God. And Pastor Troy says yes, and then he trusts God to do it.
Yep.
So we just want to encourage you, if you're watching and you're like, man, these stories are encouraging, follow us, check out our Instagram at Dr. Leanna Brewer and at Troy Brewer, Pastor Troy Brewer on Instagram, because we've been posting a bunch of rescue stories on both of their feeds. And just stories of what we are doing. And like you said, Pastor Darrell, your boots on the ground in many of the places that we go to. This is real. The work that we do is real. The lives that we are changing it is truly lives changed. It's babies that are born at risk for human trafficking, and then they grow up to be Miss Uganda. Like, that's the reality of the life of just one of the lives. And so I just want to encourage you, get involved, join the fight, call the number on your screen, 877-413-0888 to get involved, to help us rescue more kids all over the world. You can also, is that a QR? Yeah, you can scan the QR code. Sorry, my eyesight. Scan the QR code. You can also go to troybrewer.com. Just go to his website and click give. We make it super easy there. And just get involved, guys. This is real. This is the real deal. They are the real deal. And it's just such a blessing to be a part of this ministry, and it's fun. And thank you for sharing some of your stories. And we'll be right back here tomorrow at this time. Hopefully, let's just say a prayer right now that Pastor Troy can somehow join us. Ben, I know you were there last time, and you were helping them get set up. I know it's a whole ordeal.
I heard it was a whole.
And I know
Mindy
was there, and sparks were literally flying as they're trying to plug things in. So.
I literally shut that entire power grid by accident.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a reason, Pastor Troy is not on with us tomorrow. But listen, hopefully we'll have some more stories, some more updates from him. And again, I'm just so excited. I'm excited for him to return back from this trip and to hear all the amazing things that we're doing there. And we can update you on some more of that stuff tomorrow. So thank you guys again for joining us. Don't forget to check out all the new content that we have over on odx.tv. Pastor Troy was actually on Tony Merkel's podcast today.
He was.
It dropped at 11 a.m. on Tony Merkel's YouTube, but we're going to have that up on ODX if it's not there already yet. So make sure you check that out. They talk about all kinds of crazy blurry things, Nephilim, all
That's
the
confessional podcast.
Confessional podcast.
Yeah,
Great podcast, guys.
It's a great podcast. Pastor Troy's been a huge fan, so I know that was really fun for him to be a guest on that. But yeah, until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We call you the head and not the tail, above and not beneath, and highly favored of the Lord. We'll see you next time.
Human trafficking, the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It's not just a global problem, it's our problem, and it's closer than you think. In just 4 years of open borders, our nation became a trafficking superhighway, resulting in over 350,000 kids just vanishing. It's time to say, not on our watch, not on our land, and not to our children. Our team of rescuers has spent the last 30 years rescuing and raising over 11,000 kids here in the U.S. and all over the world. We have over 51 safe homes and more than 4,000 children in our care right now. But we could have 10 times that. We just need your support. Please call now and join our team of rescuers. Call 877-413-0888 or go to troybrewer.com. Get in this fight today, because if we don't show up for these kids, nobody else is coming.